Divine peace and blessings. In keeping with my ongoing topic of spirit possession, along with many of the other topics that I have been discussing more recently, I want to talk about beginning with the basics before attempting much more serious level stuff. We just did a video on spirit possession, and I think that speaks in many ways to the tone and pace of the day, where we are flooded with technology, flooded with gadgets, flooded with bits of information. There aren't many gatekeepers outside of our own selves, our own head, our own ability to cipher and decipher this information. Of course, we could easily digress into another topic of mental health. If we're not operating from a pure consciousness, from a place in mental health where we can discern clearly, um, then obviously that's going to affect your outcome in terms of psychic work, transcendental meditation, spirit possession, any of those higher level activities and sciences. Let's begin with the basics. Many have a difficulty with just basic meditation, transcendental meditation, stilling, silencing the mind, slowing down things. It's just the basics of transcendental and much more higher level work. Being able to shut down fear, ego, insecurity. Now, I'm not speaking in a grander, exterior way, which is the way we often look at these things now in our present pop culture. Who said, who's hating on me, who did what, exterior like things. I'm talking about interior roadblocks. I'm talking about guardians, guardsmen, guardswomen who stand at the portals of consciousness that we all must pass through on much deeper, much more metaphysical, quantum metaphysical, multidimensional levels in order to achieve and obtain higher level frequency, higher level manifestation, higher level activity. I dare say many of you could not handle hearing an outside voice outside of your head, hearing or seeing a true, clear, crystal clear vision of something beyond your present level awareness. There's a romance with that, there's a fantasy with that. We see it in our fairy tales, we see it in cartoons, it's in our entertainment, it's in our nursery rhymes. But there's a level that we must consider authentically when talking about spirit work. How many of you really want to hear from a disembodied spirit? How many of you really want to wake up and find yourself inside a black hole, find yourself floating in space, find yourself experiencing many of the things outside of our quote unquote normal range of waking activity? Many of the processes that you will go through as a part of learning to maneuver a divine gift, as a part of experience for the first time a divine gift. Many of these experiences are frightful, scary even, based on what we are accustomed to in our normal waking environment. So just in getting people to learn transcendental meditation, to learn to sit still long enough to hear from spirit is a challenge. Yet we somehow think mastering much more complex sciences, such as divination, such as spirit possession, such as channeling, we seem to think we can gather that in a weekend or in a few hours or in the first 20 years of life, even, um, without really being put to the test, if you will. Because it's one thing to experience these things internally, to say you have dreams, to say you see things, to say you see gifts and share gifts that we cannot see, we cannot perceive from the outside. It's when the documentation comes into play, it's when the evidence comes into play, it's when science comes into play, it's when allowing public scrutiny of what you do and who you say you are comes into play that we really often get into the real crust of what people are and what people say they can do and what people are actually able to achieve. But even before we get to that, society wants to rush to that, but even before we get to that, learning to test our own gifts, our own skills, our own dreams, our own visions, it's a challenge. And it's one that we must be honest in, authentic in, and be able to humble ourselves too in order to grow and truly develop authentically in terms of spiritual gifts. As always, I will be back with more. All is truly and indeed a blessing. Ashe.